Oh, friends, you know what time it is. We are doing Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire Secrets of The Apprentice. Oh, man, we are going to talk about season 5, episode 8 of The Apprentice, available right now on Amazon Prime. It is June of 2025, and that series is available right now for a limited time on Amazon Prime. Oh my God. So, you guys are getting this episode 1 week after another for covering episode 8 and episode 9 of The Apprentice. But I am about to record this as a two-parter. That's right. So I did pour myself some wine because we are going to give a bunch of spoilers. If you do not want The Apprentice season 5 spoiled for you, then you gotta go get up to speed with the next 2 episodes before you watch this, because we are talking about me as a project manager for the second time. And then in the very next episode that you guys get, it is going to be the episode where what? Mommy gets fired. But because of my schedule, I need to record these one right after another. So while I did pour myself a glass of wine, I am just barely going to take a couple of sips during this episode because I need to be coherent enough to do 2 episodes for you, and they are juicy. Okay, you guys, for those of you watching on YouTube instead of audio only, I am holding up Ramin Satudi's book, Apprentice in Wonderland. Now, this book just came out late last year, and it was a New York Times bestseller. Donald Trump actually participated in the book, and it's an accounting of what happened with that whole series of The Apprentice. And a lot of my story is in there that is thoroughly canvassed in other episodes. But I just reread what Ramin wrote about what happens in episode 9 of The Apprentice, and it made me laugh out loud. So we will get to that next week, but this week, let's set the stage. We just did the flyover tasks. We did those 3 in the middle. They were fine. I don't even barely remember other than the actual room assembly of Big Brother, which was one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite things I've ever created, period. As a matter of fact, after we did the Big Brother task, Big Brother reached out in San Diego to a friend of mine who actually started Jenks, the company that Brian used to work for. And Tim got me involved with Big Brother in San Diego after I had done that task because he had been working with them for a long time. So that was really, really the lovely start of a relationship with Big Brother and Big Sisters. And I need to reach out to them because I haven't talked to them in years, and they are a fantastic organization. So we're on this winning streak, and I know that we're about to swap teams. So I had heard of this happening on other seasons because as soon as I realized that I did not know fucking shit about the way that a TV show like this was edited or whatever, I started asking all kinds of questions. There would be these periods of time when the cameras were not rolling. I know I talked about this before and how they gave me a chair while everybody else sat on the floor. That happened a lot, but there would be these periods of time where if the cameras aren't on you and rolling and you're a contestant on a reality TV show, at least this is how it used to work. I'm guessing it still works this way. They didn't want you to talk, obviously, to other contestants when there weren't cameras on you, because if something important happened, if you guys had a really sharp disagreement, if you guys had like an inside joke or had a strategy that should have been captured for the overall cadence of the narrative of the way they are telling that episode, then they didn't get it. And that sucks. And you saw what I very casually referred to but didn't explain in the last Sticker Wars episode about breaking the third wall, when I'm like, oh, I really don't want to have an NDA with the streaming service because I really want to show this is what it's like to put together a production company. This is how you vet the people. This is how you hire on a camera crew. This is how you decide what your shots are. This is how you decide what's going to get made into an episode that we can like literally show the whole process of the storytelling behind the scenes, but then the actual story. You can only do that in Sticker Junkie because I'm so transparent about like, you're not just gonna fucking accidentally 500x your sales for 5 years in a row. While it is lucky, and so much luck is involved and so many lucky things do keep happening, luck favors the prepared. Luck knocks on your door when you are trying everything for a long time. So was it super lucky that my new bestie came over and like had the halal meal and hung out and talked to me while I ate lunch, and we just totally homied out. And it turns out that he's like a phenomenally good producer that's been on all these iconic shows. Yes, that's lucky as shit. I'll never say any word other than that. It's so lucky. And I'm also going to all of the things. And this is the show that's about, 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes long that you're watching right here that's condensed down from like 2 whole weeks of what just happened. So there's a lot of stuff that isn't like that, that's just hustle and it's hard. But man, when you get those banger alignment meetings, poof, it can just shoot you into another place. Or even like when my friend DJ Sarah Haywood and I really way more deeply connected at this summit and just like hung out a lot and like went out and experienced all the fun stuff that Summit has to offer a lot of the time together. And I was just like, girl, I have this like amazing affiliate program. And then she mentioned a different client than the one that she just brought over to me. And I said, oh, they actually used to be our client and they're not right now. And they do spend about 250 grand a year. So if you get them as our client, that's going to work out great for you. I'm happy to pay you a commission. She's like, okay, be right back. So I'm just having all of this good juju continually following me around right now in Sticker Junkie. And like I said on the last episode, I meant to talk about that on this Apprentice episode of like regaining my confidence. Because when I say I used to never say like, oh, I'm the best salesperson or I'm fucking da, 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 I actually did all the time. It was obnoxious. I am guessing because it was so easy for me to start my businesses. You guys, everything just went right in line. Everything just went bam, 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 bam. It was hard for the first 24 to 36 months because like I made a whole bunch of money, then some bad stuff happened. I've talked about this in previous episodes, then I had to make it all back again. But by like year 3 or 4 in business, my businesses were so stable and kicking all of the ass. And I was so, so financially secure and so set in my late 20s and early 30s that I truly was, because my life experience is the only life experience I had. And there wasn't like the internet showing you, not really showing you everybody else's life experience. Like, and it was so unique and so rare to be an entrepreneur. I barely knew any other entrepreneurs. And it had been so easy for me to just step outside of my box and build these companies that made millions of dollars a year. Like, it just wasn't even hard when I first did. It really wasn't. Like, it was a lot and I had to take a lot of steps and I did have to do a lot of work, but I didn't run into hardly any road bumps. I was so lucky and I was so hardworking. But I was also really lucky. And I had already refined all my sales skills by this point, well, like all by a lot. And because I did door-to-door fundraising for a pro-choice nonprofit for 2 years, like if you're going to be able to immediately talk to somebody at a door and get them to write you a check for $240, because I'd be like, oh, do $20 a month and that comes out to $240 a year. Or you could do, $1 a week is $52 and blah, blah, blah. And it is, of course, was a tax write-off. And it would support women's right to sentience over their own fucking bodies. I'm like, it's a pretty easy yes to me. Nothing will get you to be a better salesperson quick than door-to-door in-person communication, because that is a skill you can refine really fast at the door. And I know I shared with you guys in the last podcast that I rate really high on a bunch of psychopathy skill sets. I am not a psychopath, obviously, nor am I devoid of emotions, but there is a thing that people who are, and I'm probably on some kind of spectrum, I refuse to get tested, but not a lot of people will sit down in front of a computer and write a quantitative trading system that takes 3 years to write in quant mathematics. That's weird. And start 14 companies. So whatever is going on with my brain, I like it a lot. I'm really happy with the way it functions. All is well with me. But I also am always sort of like figuring stuff out a lot quickly in my mind in a way that almost would be painful if I didn't have a lot of projects going on, which is why I think I was so depressed when I was in Sedona for so long. So as I'm like doing these door-to-door sales, I'm very quickly also unintentionally mirroring the person that I'm talking with, which is a natural thing that women who are sort of masking and maybe are on some sort of a spectrum and don't really quite understand exactly the way people are relating to each other, all of which makes sense with like the head trauma and the growing up. I always was like, why don't I fit in? How do I better fit in? How can I relate with people better? Why don't people like me? When I was being really bullied, I'm like, why don't people like me? That's not so much of a concern of mine anymore. I'm like, there's like billions of people on the planet and plenty of people like me. And if somebody doesn't like me, that's cool. I probably also also don't like them. So we can just be not in contact with each other. That sounds great. It's always so weird to me, the world of like bullying and comments and really mean, very negative people who are very hurt people writing really mean, negative comments on the internet. I'm like, oh, I had someone that wrote comments on like same person on 2 or 3 different platforms. I'm like, you disliked me enough to go from YouTube to Instagram to like Threads? What? That's a journey, my brother. That's a lot. That's a journey, my friend. Or maybe it was to TikTok. I don't remember. Like, I'm so sorry for whatever day that you're having that you just like me that bad. But it's cool. It is all cool. And so now that we have this whole world like of TikTok or of Instagram Reels where people like myself can meet other ourselves can meet other entrepreneurs, can meet other people who maybe think a little bit differently. I didn't know it was normal to have a comfort show. And I always knew I was a little intense and a little different and very high maintenance, but I maintain myself. And so I never feel high maintenance because I just do all of the things in a very particular way for myself. I don't put that really on anybody else. And I always knew that I also had really exacting standards, but I grew up in a military family and my mother is an ultra high achiever as well. Ultra high achiever. Has been to all 7 continents, including Antarctica. Has went to Egypt under armed guard because it was such a dangerous place to be at the time. Has just traveled the world. So she's been to so many countries in the world and she's so fascinating. And she built huge systems for Northrop Grumman's. I was going to say exactly what she built, but I don't even know if I'm allowed to. And then ended up building really big interconnected system where like child protective services would be able to talk to each other all throughout the state. Because previous to that, if you were like in Seattle and then moved to Tacoma, you would be out of child protective services. So my mom is the person that went in and led the team that like made that all of those different counties communicate with each other in a state. And she did it in one state and then another and then another and then another. After she called up Northrop Grumman and said, I don't want to build weapons or have anything to do with weaponry anymore. And I'm like, Mom, you realize I think I maybe told this story in another episode a long time ago, but I'm like, you do realize you work for a defense contractor, right? She's like, I know I might get fired, but I can't do it. I can't have anything to do with any of that. And then they just had this really beautiful contract that came in where they were helping little kids instead of building weaponry. Oh, she's such a badass. And that was such a male dominated field. So when I grew up, I really didn't understand even a lot of the messaging that young girls were getting because I was getting profoundly different messaging. And because we didn't have TikTok telling us quite so many things and the fashion magazines had not taken off then. There weren't all these standards that were being put on young girls but back then, and there was no visibility to the just sort of, hyper over sexualization that just happens on the internet sometimes, where it's really like the worth of your body looks this way or that way, and this is the one that's going to get the most likes and comments and all the filters and all the stuff. We just didn't have any of that. So we're a girl that was like me now, that's like 12 or 13, is getting so much information from Instagram and from different pop stars and from all this stuff. I was reading like Time magazine when I was 11 and grown-up adult biography books about interesting people. I didn't have these expectations overlaid on top of me. And I had a really strong mother. And I had a father who I just ran into Margot Bisnow, who is Elliot Bisnow's mom. Elliot Bisnow is one of the founders of Summit Series. And she wrote this book and interviewed like hundreds of different entrepreneurs, female men and women. But within the female entrepreneur, the one thing that set all of us apart and made us really assured of success, the one common thread that like virtually every female entrepreneur that she interviewed had, was that their fathers very consistently told them, you can do anything, you can do this, you've got this, you should be an entrepreneur, you're really smart that way, and just had like unlimited amounts of faith in them. And that was the determining factor. There were other determining factors, but that was the strongest one. I had breakfast with her in Cabo San Lucas at that Summit Series, and she explained that whole thing to me, and I was like, oh wow, that really makes sense. Because she was like, I bet your dad was really supportive of you. I'm like, yeah, he was really supportive of me wanting to be an entrepreneur, and he is the one that gave me the art of the deal when I was like 11 or 12 years old. And he so unfortunately passed away before I was on The Apprentice, because he would have been so proud of me. So here I am, and I'm on this show, and I'm rubbing a lot of people the wrong way because I have had only just success, and I also have had only just my own teams. And so it's going to come in important in this episode that I was different. I didn't really sort of know why. And even though I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s, I never received any messaging of like women can do this and women can do that and women are capable and like da 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 because it was just so modeled for me. Like my mom was a fucking badass with like a degree in computer science. That was so rare. It was rare for anyone to understand computers in the late 70s and early 80s. It was way more rare for people that knew how to code and could go build these huge projects. To be a woman, that was way not normal back then. And so because of that, it really is almost like I just had the confidence of any man in a workplace. And because I controlled my workplace, that never was an issue. And then I got onto The Apprentice and I saw the way that women in general were treated, and it was way fucking different than I had been treated my whole life at all. And then I also had this cadre of women who, as I mentioned very wisely, were like, Trump way likes her a lot. And so she got to go, which is the right thing for them to have done. I am not blasting them at all. And when I say like, well, I did all of the things, it's only because like one of them was a financial advisor. I'm sure she's great at that. One of them just baby fucking barely within a year, I think before, had baby barely gotten out of law school and was teaching jazzercise and was talking about the fact that she was a jazzercise instructor. And I'm like, that's awesome. But later made a claim that she was a trial lawyer. And I was like, girl, you got out of law school a month ago. What even are you talking about? And then one of them had gone to Harvard. She's so what's Reese Witherspoon's Legally Blonde. She's that. She is adorable. She's gorgeous. She's very attractive and very blonde and very perky. And that's the group of women that sort of had a alliance against me. And so obviously Allie went to business school, but like from my understanding, she had almost no experience yet in business because she had baby barely just gotten out of business school. And I believe when I interviewed her, I think the longest job she'd had since business school, which again, she had just gotten out of, was like 6 months, and it wasn't as an entrepreneur. And so even if you would learn theoretical stuff, if you're going to fucking Harvard business school, like, girl, you are learning how to go be the CEO of Xerox or HP or Coca-Cola or some big ass big corporation. And that's dope. And you know a lot about that, but that is not the same type of training that you get to go do a pop-up real fast, like of like, hey, we got to sell a bunch of this one thing right now, real quick on the quick. You're learning how to read like ROI charts and control your EBITDA and what percentage of your spending should go where. And it's very like, almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like sterile or like clinical. It's this very like, if you have a company and you are controlling $2 billion in budget, this is where this should go. This is how you should handle your treasury. This is how much cash you should keep on hand. This is how you should run the reports, etc. This is how you should handle HR. Like these are not hard hustle skills that you're learning at fucking Harvard Business School, at least not back then. Now, for sure, 1,000,000% for sure, they have an entrepreneurship program. I have actually been asked to teach entrepreneurship at Harvard at their women's conference that they have annually. And it was super fun. And I did a bunch of activations and Q&As and amazing. I love it there. I love it every time that you ask me to go speak at Harvard. There's no shade on Harvard. But back then, this Ivy League education specifically was the seeding grounds for like McKinsey, for the different law firms, for the different huge agencies of all manner, hired directly out of Ivy League schools, at least back then. That's why shows like Mad Men are so fascinating. True fact. So we go into this next task, and I have gleaned from all of my questioning of people that like, oh, because I'm seeing our team get really lopsided. Our team is named Synergy. Their team is named Gold Rush. We have way more people than Gold Rush. Because I got my secret sauce, my super magical special spreadsheet. I need to get that mug. I saw this mug and I almost got it for a friend of mine who's a baller ass CFO of a Fortune like 100 company. We have a bunch of like ridiculous applied mathematic jokes. And I saw this mug and it said freak in the sheets with like a little old school Excel spreadsheet in the front of it. And I am really good at spreadsheets. The first time I met this person, we were flirting just a little bit. And I was going to show him something on a spreadsheet. I did show him something on a spreadsheet in my trading system that I wrote from scratch, which is if you're like a math geek and I show you what I created from scratch, you're like, who is this chick? And this person has a PhD in applied mathematics and I do not. I didn't even go to college. And I showed him this. He's like, excuse me, though, what? What did you just create? I'm like, it's wild. Then he presses a button on his keyboard and makes a movie play from the data in his equations. And I was like, this is the fucking best nerd like foreplay in the history of ever. Spoiler alert, we never even kissed, we didn't date, but I was just like, whoa, who are you? How did you just make that happen? So, because I have drank a little wine and we're doing the Apprentice episode and I'm a little off in the weeds, this is mimicking something that I have been talking about with my good girlfriend, May Fox. I do something special for her called the X-Files, but then I also have like my Gen X girlfriends that I keep wanting to release that podcast where I just have this very long format, off in the weeds, funny stories, and have been testing that with some of my girlfriends who then leave me their long format stories. Men are welcome too. I have had a bunch of my dude friends hit me up lately and be like, what the fuck? I'm a Gen Xer too, and I used to talk on the phone all the time. I want in. But so this episode might be a little bit more off in the weeds as I tell you about my time slinging pizzas on The Apprentice. We're getting to it. And so anyway, these ladies read the writing on the wall when Trump would not stop saying, what? You cannot beat her. You can't beat her. Why even is anybody else still here? Because I kept doing things that were so clever. But then I did not read part of the room correctly. I truly actually thought that Donald Trump knew way more about what was going on with each task than he did. He barely was involved anymore with the show, as previously mentioned on past episodes. But I actually thought that he knew that regardless of what they would say into his ear, I thought that he got it. That I had just dominated every single task and that we had gone on this winning streak entirely because of me. And when you're on a show like that, you do a bunch, like a very lot of private Q&As, little one-on-ones that then end up getting snipped into the episode. So there was a lot of discussion of my amazing spreadsheet. And I do need to get that mug because I am a freaking the fucking spreadsheets. So I built out this mega thing where you could just pop in. These are all the main points of contact. This is every single phone number linked right into it. This is every single point of what we're doing with that agreement. This is the cost. This is the budget. As soon as you throw something else into this portion of the budget, it's automatically going to reduce from the cost so we never overspend. Just like everything that nobody that's had to hustle on a budget before and hire 10 or 12 people super fucking fast and then train them real quick into what they're supposed to tell people and then sell a whole bunch of shit and then reconcile the cash and get merchandise made and control how much of it that you have and know which items people actually want. Nobody, how would they know that? It was like a lawyer. I don't remember what Sean did. It's something salesy. He's like a sales guy and he was good. He was like a good sales guy, but not like he had worked for other people's companies and sold things. He hadn't started at that point in his life as something and made it himself. And then a financial advisor and a lawyer and a chick that went to Harvard and studied business, but had never started a business. Also, I am completely unaware of how weird it is for a woman my age to be as successful as I was and to be as confident as I was because have always been super private. And this is 2004. So Facebook, I don't even believe was available to the general public yet. I think that happened in 2006 where they barely had some people. I don't even remember, but the social media was not a thing and MySpace did not feel super interactive as social media. And I wasn't involved in any of that anyway. Even if it was a thriving thing in 2006, most people were not on there. And I didn't own a television since I was 19 and I was 31 at this point. So a lot of the messaging that women are receiving, I am just simply not receiving. And I probably had, I don't know, a couple $1 million just in the bank. I am set for life at this point. Except for whatever, I wasn't investing it properly. It was ridiculous. That's a whole other ridiculous part of the story. And so I go on this show and I don't realize that there are alliances. And I have forgotten how fucking catty and mean and shitty that women can be to each other. And I feel like that really has changed. But that was super, I actually really feel like that has changed. I hope personally with the Power Chick Mafia to be a part of that change. I used to, the way I put it at the time was beta women pretending to be alphas because I really prided myself on being this alpha chick, which is so dumb. I love all women now. I really, really used to have an opinion about other women and what they chose to do with their life. And I really cannot express to you the degree that I do not. I noticed this because on another episode, I said who does she think she is? And my response was bitch, I'm Andrea motherfucking Lake. That is who I am. And then it got made into our reel for that week. And I was laughing because it was always men who were saying that to me. And so these days, when I say bitch or you're such a fucking cunt, I'm usually talking about a guy, not a woman, because I just eliminated those words from my vocabulary for a long time. So I'm not really sure how they've even crept back in. All right, friends, here's where the story circles all back together. So I've created this spreadsheet, and there is an obnoxious amount of time when you're filming a reality TV show where each individual contestant is pulled aside. I know I've explained this before, but for anybody it's your first time, just go listen to the whole Apprentice series because all of it becomes important with bullying, with all of the things in a second that I covered in the early episodes of the Apprentice series. Tying this big ass long story into a pretty little knot, there's an aggressive amount of time that you're pulled aside into what's called OTFs or on the fly interviews, which is kind of similar to what I'm doing right here. Generally speaking, it's a nice camera shot. There's some cool shit going on in the background, and you are just talking to a producer. You're not looking directly into the camera. You're talking to somebody off the screen, and they're asking you questions, and they have instructed you to restate their question in your answer. So they would say, how did it go here on the boys and girls task? What was the influence for the furniture in the room? And you would say, I'm on the boys and girls task right now, and I got this idea in my mind to have the influence in this room of XYZ. So they were not shown on the air, but they were feeding questions and you were responding to them directly one-on-one. And this spreadsheet was a hot topic of conversation because it is accurate to say that is even more than me and my own mind and creativity, except for the spreadsheet did come from me. That is why the tasks were successful, because I would literally like have a person and then just have all of their tasks and subtasks because there was no fucking project management software keeping us in place. And then I would like set the time that this particular task had to be done by in order for everything to be finished by the end. And I'd be like, oh, it's 6 o'clock. Has XYZ gotten done? No, it hasn't. Well, it needs to get done within the next 20 minutes or else these two tasks that need to happen after that task are going to be late, etc. And so the quantity of like really operations, which is Brian's thing, I'm fine at it and I can do it. But the quantity of like operational precision that I had to do to get tasks done on time was all only even possible because of this spreadsheet. And I started asking all the producers, like, hey, we're lopsided, like what happens? And most people that were there understood that on a reality TV show, like you could switch teams, but really didn't watch I really didn't own a television. I am not making that up. I actually really did not own television. And so I had seen like snippets of TV. And so I was very not familiar with editing. And I very quickly was getting like a fucking PhD crash course. And it made me scared because as I was looking at the rest of my team, and I did not have, as we will discuss in a future episode, I did not have the Blizzard gaming rights yet, but I knew that we might be getting them just now. I knew that there was big things that were coming, which I will explain in a future episode of The Apprentice, because that happened at the season finale. And I knew that I had a reputation to protect. I knew that I already had huge licenses and was working with massive corporations. And so I knew that everything was reflecting way back on me. So I'm having this very prickly sort of defensive personality also. But also I know that I'm looking like a fucking rock star because I know what I'm doing with those kind of things. Every time I touch my hair, hi Aunt Beth, every time I touch my hair now, I'm like, Beth said I touch my hair too much. And now when I'm on YouTube, every time I touch my hair, I think of Beth. So I grab my pretty little memory stick and I pull the spreadsheet off of the team laptop because it's my spreadsheet that I created, period. Nobody else had input on it. Nobody else would ever type into it when I was there. This was what I maintained to make sure we kept winning these tasks. And even on the tasks where they're like, we don't want you to be involved. I'm like, okay, cool, but I'm still going to note taking it because we need that. Blah, blah, blah. And literally on any one of those tasks, most likely we would have lost had I not maintained just the organizational operations. Again, you guys, these people did not have entrepreneurial experience to understand that you needed a person running ops at the same time and managing time schedules. Because like if this doesn't get done by 4, then this thing cannot get done by 10. And if you miss that, you're fucked on pretty much any task that you're doing. And if we have this many camera angles to set up, like how many people need to be there, how many extras are required in each background scene, how like all of the just bullshit that would slip right fucking through the cracks. It's kind of funny because a lot of the times when I'm like, oh, we were going through the slog for the last 22 fucking months. Are you kidding me right now? We are just finishing the last of the compliance issues now, right now, 22 months later. Okay. If you don't have somebody running ops, which I didn't for a long ass time in that company until Brian came along, because even when Bree was with me, I mean, she was triaging shit. We both were. But then we got a proper person who's like, I'm going to do spaghetti maps and figure out exactly how many steps the part XYZ is. And if we want to get here, there, then whatever. So I had to fill in as that position on my team in addition to anything else that I was doing on a task, because it is such a precise thing that you just like don't even realize you're learning as you're gritty and fucking in the weeds and in the trenches with starting even like my little fuck you t-shirt company of like, if I didn't order enough of this here, then this would fall short there, or I would disappoint a client over here, and this had to be done by this time in order for that to go over there. I didn't even realize how much I learned that until I was on The Apprentice, like playing this little game. And I didn't realize how much other people who also were legitimately really smart people, like I didn't realize that it was special, all of the knowledge that I gained by starting like 7 or 8 companies by the point that I was on this show. So even though it wasn't most of the business that I ever did, I had to have done tens and tens of millions of dollars in revenue then. I had done about 444 million in revenue right now, because I'd done 440 and I've done about 4 since I've been back in the companies. But I didn't even realize that that was not like normal. And I know that that sounds so disconnected and so crazy, but I lived on 20 acres in the middle of New Mexico by myself. I didn't do anything except for my businesses. Social media didn't exist. I didn't watch television. I only read books. I was such an isolated person for so much of my life. When the lockdowns came in 2020, I'm like, peace out. Cool. I am built for this. I could not talk to another human being for 2 years and be fine. So anyhow, after being very unaware how all of this works, I get quickly up to speed by talking to all the producers while they are setting up all of our on-the-fly interviews, while they are pulling us aside, because they very often would drive us to like a different location that had really pretty backdrops, and it might be like 40 minutes in the car. And you were not allowed to talk to the other contestants, as I mentioned earlier, because you might bring up a plot point. So even if there were other people in the car, which really frequently after like everything had sort of gotten pared down, there weren't, because you were all going to different shoot locations, because all of the shoots were happening at the same time but in different places, so that they could get like Roxanne's reaction to something, or Allie's, or Tammy's, or Sean's, or Tarek's, or whoever's. I would just talk to the APs, the associate producers, all the time, and whoever was just around. And I was like a sponge trying to absorb everything I could. I still to this day like remember and have followed forever one of the camera guys, because I just always used to talk to him. And so because I am finally getting it that like, look, we're probably going to move somebody from this team over to that team, I took a memory stick and took the spreadsheet off of the computer so that I could take it with me to the other team. So I was already planning to switch over to Tarek's team, because Tarek and I were like homies. And he had like a guy that owned a construction company, and I can't remember if Dan Brody was still there or not. And like Lee and Lenny maybe still were there. And I don't remember who had already been gone. Maybe Lenny was gone. I don't remember. And Charmaine and the amazing, very smart, very talented former volleyball player who was a real estate agent, Leslie. And so I was going to hop over to their team, except for that, I didn't go to college. And as someone that didn't go to college and was really hyper defensive and had been terribly bullied in junior high school, I did have a thing against like frat guys and sorority women. And Charmaine and Leslie are so lovely and such kind-hearted, incredibly good people. But every woman on my season struck me as a sorority woman. Every single one. I think every single one of them actually was in a sorority, and I didn't even go to college. And so I just thought, I don't know them anyway. It's probably going to be the same. It wouldn't have been. It's probably going to be the same thing over there on that side of the street. Then I later found out that both Charmaine and Leslie, I believe, had like big dogs, and I have a big dog, and it's like a certain type of a woman that has a big dog. And I always get along with other women that have big dogs. Mostly I get along with women that have small dogs too, but it is possible for me to not get along with a woman that has a small dog. However, with women that have big dogs, I mean, just straight up, most likely we probably are going to bond, because we probably have a lot in common if we're a woman and we're just caring for this other dog and treating it like it's our best thing since sliced bread, our best friend. Rico, by the way, I was in Sedona last week, and I had a weird camera angle because I had to sit on the floor so that Rico could be next to me, because he did have a little tumor that was actually on one of his canines, and the canine had to come out and the tumor had to come out. And I just got back news today. So thank you Dr. Kinney Creek Small Animal Clinic, if you happen to be in the Verde Valley. I love her. I just got word back right before I filmed this podcast that it is benign and that he is totally fine. And if you hear him snoring in the background, he is still on pain medication because he has stitches in his mouth from getting that canine taken out, but he's doing great. And he's back on Farmer's Dog. This is not a paid advertisement, but Rico is living his best life and he loves Farmer's Dog. And he was very sad that mommy could not afford Farmer's Dog when I was broke. And he was very pleased when he got Farmer's Dog back again. So again, this is not an ad, but Farmer's Dog's pretty great. So I was planning to go over to Team Gold Rush, and I was taking my spreadsheet with them, which I knew would fuck my team all of the way up. All of the way up. And Michael was on the hit list on Synergy because everyone was like, you fucking by the skin of your teeth. You are so lucky Andrea drew up that plan and ran that team and got this done. And then he got to present it, which didn't just rub me the wrong way, it rubbed everybody the wrong way because everybody else felt more ownership over that task than Michael because he had held us up for what? For hardly any time. Like looking back on it, it was like 4 or 5 or 6 hours, which was like an eternity. We were living dog years. That was like being held up for like 3 days. We were like, ugh. When I stepped in and I'm like, no, we were at IKEA, I think at midnight. I believe I had to call the IKEA and tell them like, hey, can we please with the cameras and the whatever, and insinuated it was probably for The Apprentice. And they were like, okay, cool. But I couldn't say that. And I didn't say that because I was so mindful of that. It's like us like running through the store at like midnight. And it was like a miracle that I was able to get a hold of the manager at the IKEA and do that. And that's the type of thing that an entrepreneur knows how to do. So truly, if it was a season with like 18 people like me who had started 7 or 8 companies, oh shit, that would be something to fucking watch even to this day. I should do this show right now because that would be amazing. Amazing. And I am planning to pitch a multi-series deal. These 2 shows, they won't be the only shows that I create. That's right, through Power Chick Mafia Entertainment. That's right. So anyhow, I am going to all of the kick, all of the ass on the opposite team is the plan. And Michael knew that he was on the hit list. He did. I think I said something super shitty and he just laughed about it when we were both in the Ponderosa, which is where you go when you get kicked out. And I will tell you about that in a separate episode later down the line because it's hilarious what happens when you get kicked off a reality TV show. That is a story in and of itself. I haven't even drank a whole glass of wine and I already feel super buzzed and I feel like I'm way off in the weeds, but I feel like you like it or else you would literally not still be watching. So I have my little magic wand, little memory stick in my pocket. On the pocket of this jacket, it says happy thoughts. I'm pulling that up for the people on YouTube, but I really am going to switch over. And then I start thinking about it and I'm like, I don't even know this team. It's probably just going to be the same thing. And at least I already know the skill set of the people on my current team. I'm just like thinking for a second, for a fucking hot second. When Trump is looking directly right at me, and asking, do you want to switch over to the other team? But Michael was like so smart. Michael, I want to let Michael know, I really think Michael is a smart guy. I know Michael is a smart guy. I saw how well he performed when he was talking in his center as the consultant to other people in a boardroom. What he didn't do well at was the nitty-gritty implementation, but Michael would hire people to go do the nitty-gritty implementation from the job he actually had. He didn't have to go figure out the bullshit himself. He was advising them what to do. So it's not surprising that he froze a little when he had to go actually like build the room. That's not what that guy did. He went to some fancy school too, and I am guessing was the top of his class because he was a very, very smart guy. And so we're on this next task and he very smartly reads the situation and very quickly is like, I will go to the next team. And Tarek says something really loyal in the moment of like, well, I kind of was hoping for Andrea. And I said something snarky because I literally thought I could say another thing and get in, or I wasn't thinking clearly. And I was a little bit like, I know it's here and I don't know it's there. It is to my detriment that I didn't go to that other team because we would have won that task, obviously, because I would have taken all of their organizational skill against them. They would have turned against Michael. He would have most likely would have gone home. But Michael was like, I'll go over. And Tarek's like, I kind of was hoping for, I don't even know if this made the air or not. I kind of was hoping for Andrea. And I was like, yeah, I bet you were. sure. But I was just fucking around. Oh, and Tark had done something. I loved Tark. We kept in touch afterwards. I went to his wedding. So did Sean. It was amazing. All of the best. Whenever we run into each other or reconnect with each other on social, he feels like a little brother to me. I really, 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 really love that guy. And we continued our friendship for years after that show. He looks like Orlando Bloom and his wife looks like Katie Holmes. Literally, I have a picture of them. He was in People magazine with a lookalike thing because he looks so much like Orlando Bloom. And his wife looks so much like Katie Holmes. When they both were 30, they were 30 at the same time. They look so similar. But he didn't choose me for his team. Like first, he chose Dan Brody, and then Allie picked me up as her second choice. So his rationale was like, looking at Allie, he didn't think that she would choose me like ever. And that she would choose Dan, so that he thought he could take me, I think, as his second pick because he just didn't think she would choose me. But she did. And so I already didn't like trust him a little because I'm like, I should have been your fucking first pick because we had done this. I think I talked about this where we did this fire walk around the building when the fire alarms went off. Yes, I did talk about that in an earlier Apprentice episode. I stick with the team that I am on, Team Synergy, and I just immediate regret. Just immediate regret. And so I closed my eyes and I just barely, baby, for the first time ever, have been exposed to the teachings of the law of attraction, the teachings of Esther Hicks. And so I closed my eyes and said, I'm going to make a wish right now. My wish is for whatever ideas that need to come to me, and whatever I need to do just comes to me. So I just win this task. This is a pretty miserable experience in general, because at this point, I'm not having as much fun, even though I won the Boys and Girls Club task. And that was the thing that I created just out of my own mind that was mimicking my parties and my office. I did overhear them being like, well, she didn't really do that. I'm like, you guys are such fucking assholes. Go to any of my parties or my office. Of course I did that. Why are you being lame? And why don't you just want us to win together as long as we're on a team? Because I started to hear whispers that they wanted to lose deliberately on purpose, this little alliance of chicks against me, so that they could get me fired. And in my mind, I was like, well, Trump is never firing me. So you can lose all you want. You're just going to go home. Because I did misunderstand that. I thought that Donald was like very much kept up with everything that happened. But as you will hear from the phone call that he made to me after he watched the episode I was fired on, he was not kept up with what was going on in his absence. And I will explain why on next week's episode. We're on this task and now I'm stuck with this team. So then he asks for a volunteer. I immediately am like, I will be the project manager, even though it was my second time being project manager. I feel like one person still, maybe Sean hadn't been a project manager yet or something, but I was just like, I will go because I know for sure that shit is going to hit the fucking fan if I lose. And I have all of this regret. I admit that was such a tactical error. And if I cared more about winning that show, which I truly did not, I wanted any kind of graceful exit off that show. I was like, I'm sure I will win. I didn't think I wouldn't win. I always assumed that I would win, but also I was super over all of it. I was exhausted, but also just like, I kind of hated a lot of what was going on personality wise everywhere. And I was terrified of how I was going to be edited on television. And I was very sleep deprived. I just talked to one of my girlfriends who's a parent on a Zoom this week. And we talked about sleep deprivation because she has like a 7-month-old or a 6-month-old. And then I told her just a tiny bit about being sleep deprived on The Apprentice. And I'm like, I don't know how anyone gets through their 30s or whatever decade they're having children. And she's like, I swear to God, it is like next level. So like, even if I go home now, fine. I am just going to go live a super fabulous life and go back into my businesses. No big deal. But I really was like, shit, I need to be project manager, right? Fuck, I need to be project manager every time. I need to just win every time until I have a chance to merge or redo teams again and correct this error of not going over the other team. So I'm immediately like, I don't think I even know what the task is. And I'm like, I'm project manager, or maybe they just delivered the task. And I'm like, I'm project manager because I know that I have got to win. And also, I don't even know how to explain the high degree of confidence that I have because when I am talking about like my team didn't have entrepreneurial experience, nor did their team, not really. Not really. How could they have an equivalent of like, I've started 8 companies. I didn't know how weird that was. And it's way less rare now, but I didn't know how weird and rare that was. And like, of course, this game was mine to lose. And spoiler alert, I did lose it. So I'm like, oh, it's cool. I'm just project manager, but I did this little meditation, Mr. Hicks style, and was like, whatever I need to give me the best ideas. And so then they're like, oh, okay, well, it's for 7-Eleven and some car racing thing. Truly, I don't still to this day. I just looked back into my notes because May sent me every task and like whatever who won and what the boardroom was, who got fired, what the reward was, because I just literally don't remember all of them. So I don't remember if it was NASCAR or Formula One, but I think it was Formula One because I called it NASCAR. I called it like the wrong name. And then everyone was like, oh, clutch my pearls. And how could she not know the client? And I'm like, and then Donald Trump actually said something about it in the boardroom. And I was like, yeah, I don't watch that. And he laughed. And I'm like, I don't even own a television. He's like, you don't own a television? I'm like, no, TV is a waste of time. So Donald Trump had said something to me at some point in time because he doesn't drink, or at least at this point in time, he did not drink. And he said, yeah, drinking is a waste of time. And I was like, no disagreement there. No disagreement there. I didn't drink at all at the time either. And I said, oh, yeah. When he said something about NASCAR, I was like, or NASCAR, and I said Formula One or Formula One, and I said NASCAR. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't watch that. I'm like, not only do I not watch that, I don't own a television. So I legit have no idea. He laughed and he's like, why don't you own a TV? And I'm like, it's just a waste of time. It's just such a waste of time because I didn't consume any of that content at all back then. It's a waste of time now and I do it all the time and I love it. I love the shit out of TV now, but back then, not for a long time. TV was bad back then. TV was not interesting in the 80s and 90s the way that it is today, but I digress. So we go on this task and it is for 7-Eleven, and I do think it was Formula One racing, so F1 racing, but it might have been NASCAR. I don't know. We had to sell the pizza sandwich for 7-Eleven. I make these notes. There's only like 7 bullet points that I want to make sure that I hit when I am recording an episode. And on this one, it was people being not used to women saying they're good, and that I've just very fearlessly always said I was good, and that it's not new for me to say that I'm good, because I know in another episode I was like, oh, for the first time, but it's not for the first time. I said that all the time, and it was beaten out of me after I was on national television, and I was like, I want everyone to go all the way away, and I will just say nothing for a long time because people are awful. It was terrible to be this much famous when it happened before. But now, much later, 20 years later, people aren't famous. They're refined into little segments. They're famous within their segment. There are people that I watch that have like 40,000 viewers. That's not a lot of viewers. And to me, they're famous because I listen to what they say when they come up on my feed. There's people that I watch like me that have like 1,000 viewers or 2,000 viewers. And to me, I know a lot about them, so they feel famous. But back then, there was a very small amount of people that got a very large amount of fame. And if you were on a big reality TV show, immediately you were one of them. How many no's was that for me? Let me count thy ways. Oh, many of them wanted to explain to me how very not good that I was. I already started to get comments from people who are watching the series 20 years later. And now I'm just like, wow, I really hope your day gets better. I don't comment to them at all. Obviously, I don't give them any energy, which, by the way, is how I lost the stalker the first time. I reached out to the FBI. A friend of mine who worked for the FBI, I know how that sounds. It was kind of baller. It's true. And said, hey, how do I get rid of a stalker? And he's like, just stop giving them any interaction. They will eventually move on to someone who is frightened. And there was a couple other things that I won't share. But that was basically the way that I was able to not have a stalker, is that I was not accessible at all. And so he lost interest and went to someone who he could get a fear response out of or whatever, because where he figured out that I lived, I was no longer living, and I was so wealthy that I could just be anywhere. And I was doing all those road trips back then when I drove every freeway in the country and 70% of the scenic highway. And if I wanted to pay in cash, I could. So literally I was very hard to find. And then he just, I'm sure, switched sort of his obsessive behavior to someone else because it was just someone who saw me through a TV. Also, I kept getting like thing after thing after thing after thing of like, who does she think she is? And you're not all that. And you fucking are whatever bad word that they would call me with judgment to me after seeing me for like a couple minutes on television. And it just drove out of me also a lot of the like, no, I'm really good at this. And then circumstance after circumstance after circumstance took me down in the financial crash in 2008. And so I was like rebuilding things again by like 2010, 2011. And it just drove every bit of confidence out of me. And even though I built huge things and started the Winston House and ended up getting the sales rights on Minecraft, I also started Mentor Mojo and our CTO was murdered. I also started the Winston House, which only took money out of my bank account and did not put money into my bank account. There were a few big things like that were like, live your best life. You have the best resume. That's so fucking cool, that like drained my bank account. So by the time that Sticker Junkie was not doing well, it was because of everything that happened like 2006 to 10 and like recovering from that and then having other stuff happen. It wasn't like I gave all my money to Bernie Madoff or anything. I just like circumstances and rough ones of like a CTO getting murdered, like really rough ones. And so that's why I didn't have this huge swath of cash once I was in the situation I was in 2023 and am now rebuilding. But back in Apprentice days, I am there and I am full of confidence and I am full of hubris. I am certain and I am full of like, I have all of the got this. Thing after thing after thing after thing is reinforcing that. And I go into the pizza task, which was 2 cold ass disgusting pieces of pizza, disgusting cold pieces of pizza with like turkey and cheese and lettuce and I think tomatoes even between 2 disgusting cold ass pieces of pizza. It was the worst culinary thing. It was like the most biggest culinary nightmare that I could imagine. It was all of the no. And in my little 7 bullet points, I put pizza with a little barf emoji. It was so fucking gross. It was the most grotesque thing. I do not know how it made it past an entire marketing team. I don't know anyone who thought it was a good idea. And the visual aesthetics of it were so profoundly unpleasing. It is this weird gray turkey meat, and I'm vegetarian, between like not very good looking slice of cheese, really low grade lettuce, like a very sad sort of watery tomato, and disgusting looking like stale cheese pizza things. It just looked gross. And then the way that it was packaged did not look good. The marketing was not nice. Nothing about this product was like all of the yes. And I was like, how many Harvard MBAs went and worked at 7-Eleven and was like, yeah, that's going to do great. I'm like, how many millions of dollars went into this fucking monstrosity? It was disgusting. It was disgusting. It was however many syllables long that I can make disgusting, and the longest way it was gross. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to sell the shit out of this, which was a true fact. And so I had to come up with a price split. And the thing is that I think that what it showed on the air is the one that we most settled on that did the best, which was either 1 for 4, 2 for 6, or 1 for 5, 2 for 7. But what I do not believe it showed on the air was that I A/B tested in real times multiple different price points, because they were like, this is something we still do with Sticker Junkie sticker towers. This is fucking one of the reasons that I got this idea at Sticker Junkie sticker towers. When a customer buys a sticker tower from Sticker Junkie, we give a bunch of different signs that you can put at the top of the sticker tower. It says $4 each, or 7 for 20, $5 each, or whatever, 5 for 20, and on and on and on. It has all the different dimensionalities of the price, because if you own a surf shop on Maui and your rent is $10,000 a month, then people are probably going to pay $7 for a single sticker, or 4 for 20. And if you own a coffee shop in a rural area or a smaller town like Boulder, you're probably going to sell $4 per sticker, or 7 for 20. Or if you're in a tattoo shop where people are flipping through a binder and you just want them to spend some money because they're visiting your tattoo shop and they're going to flip through our sticker binder, then you're for sure going to do $4 each, or 7 for 20. Or you might even say X amount for 30 or 40, because all of a sudden these clients you're not going to be extracting any sales from are going to place additional sales by buying these stickers, because they're going to look through that binder for 20 minutes. So I am always selling, and I'm always closing, and I'm always figuring out a win-win-win-win-win. So what is the highest price that these folks will happily pay for my disgusting pizza sandwich? Because I also get to give away a tchotchke with it. That's the other part of the deal. And that tchotchke, that item, is going to have a perceived value to the customer. So what they're really actually buying is the tchotchke, or the item. They're not actually buying the pizza sandwich. The pizza sandwich is just a happy side effect. So the tchotchke items that we get to choose from are like a koozie, like a beer koozie, a cooler, like a full ass cooler, maybe a t-shirt or something, a hat, for sure a hat, like a trucker hat, and like 5 other things. Like you get to choose your promotional favorite item, and a sticker, I'm sure. And I was laughing because I'm like, a sticker is a bad choice. The highest perceived value of a sticker is $4. And so I was like, okay, we're selling these in Manhattan in the morning and at lunch. So these are Manhattanites. So they want nothing that they can carry. And we're probably going to target like construction worker guys because this is where they actually go for lunch is 7-Eleven because it's cheap and it's fast and whatever. I think it was Allie that was really pushing like for the koozie. And I kept trying to explain to her there's a $0 perceived value. Every brand gives away beer koozies for free. They're all breweries or Barstool Sports or somebody that's it's a really good brand fit. And they have koozies and that's great for them. And there's almost no perceived value from the person holding the koozie because they always get it for free as a promotional item. Period. And if they pay for one, it's probably the price of a sticker, but nobody pays for them because everybody gives them away for free. Then there was a really high dollar item, which was a cooler, and I laughed. And there was a couple of people on my team that's like, oh, it's like $20. And I'm like, please show me a single person in Manhattan that wants to carry a cooler around with them all day if they're passing us. Because I think we didn't even get to do the noontime rush. Maybe we did, I don't remember, but I know the task started super early. So I knew that we were catching people on the way to work. And I also knew seeing construction guys were, and it was a small cooler. It was like a 6-pack cooler. Construction guys were going to pass us, and that would be a really high perceived value if they wanted to carry it all day. But I was like, very few of them do. If they want that item, they probably already have that item. They probably already own one of those. And the highest perceived value that you could take with you with no bandwidth is a hat because you just pop it on your head. And that is when I said and really threw up a fuss about they only had white hats. I'm like, don't you have red hats? Don't you have black hats? Don't you have any other hat? But especially even a red hat because red hats have the highest perceived value, which is true. And I made sure to tell that to Trump. My brother went back and rewatched that episode and was like, no, that didn't make it that. And I was like, oh, because I really did say that to him. And I really, really wished I hadn't, but I really did. And I really drove the point home because at some point he said something to me and I was like, I sold $20 million worth of merchandise last year or whatever the real number was. I think back then it was like 10. I'm like, I sold $10 million worth of merchandise last year. Do you know how many hats I sold last year? I sold a fucking very lot of hats because he even was questioning me because my team was drilling into me and I laughed. When I won that task so hard. It doesn't even matter how we just sold shit. It's fine. I won, obviously, mostly through having correct operations and testing the pricing. And I think that we did a couple bulk sales and it showed that we didn't do any, but we did because it really showed them like if they would have closed this one sale on Gold Rush, then they would have won, but they didn't close the sale, so they didn't win because they were trying to sell a pizza, the most disgusting, toxic, sodium-ridden, hyper not real, just like that isn't even food, to a gym. And the gym almost bought it because they're going to be on The Apprentice. And like maybe somebody in marketing pointed out that they perhaps shouldn't give the most disgusting, not food, junk food as the perception of we're going to buy this to give this away for free to members of our gym who just worked out to get in shape. Very bad brand fit. And so the deal, in fact, did not come together, nor was it at all even a little bit a good idea. And then I think they made it look like I didn't do any bulk sales because that was good for the show story arc. Like, of course I did. There wasn't a lot of time though to make those calls because like they would give us a task late in the day. We'd be doing the thing. We wouldn't even get the deliverable until whenever. And then we had to put the whole task together and then also to go make cold reach out going sales calls was a lot with a team who hated me. But we did put some things together. I don't recall exactly what. And we sold a very lot of pizza sandwiches. So then we go to get the like, you won, you lost messaging. And he was like, oh, it was really close. But I actually heard it really wasn't close because I think their price difference was like $7 to $8. And then they're like, we got the cooler. And I remember burst out laughing. I really don't think this made the air, but I did burst out laughing because I was just like, who the fuck wants to carry the cooler around all day? And they're like, yeah, it's crazy people didn't buy it because it was like getting a cooler for $8. And I'm like, you did not think this through and whatever. So then that's when Trump pointed out, like, you flubbed the name. And I'm like, yeah, I don't watch shit like that. I don't even own a TV. Of course I fucked up the name. I couldn't even tell you which one it is right now. I literally don't know. And I heard the whole entire, like, behind the wall where he was sitting was just camera crews with like cameras faced in through sort of tinted windows. I heard them erupting in laughter. And I'm like, how the fuck would I know? No, I fucking do. I read books in my hand. It's chaos. Nobody does that. And I live on a mountain in the middle of Santa Fe. with no television, doing yoga on my back deck. I don't know who anybody is. I got like 5 dogs and 20 acres, and I'm living my best life. And I am the start to every horror movie that exists. I don't live there anymore. Actually, my business partner from Tapa had come to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I went to go meet him for dinner. And he's like, why the fuck do you fucking live here? I took my girlfriend last weekend to Carlsbad. You need to go move to Carlsbad, San Diego. That is your town. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about Carlsbad, but I do like Encinitas, which is like a half a second away from Carlsbad, where I've lived before. They're both the same. They're both very nice. And he's like, you got to go move there right now. Why do you live in New Mexico, Andrea? And I was like, good question. And literally, it was less than like a few months after that I moved, because I was like, why do I live here in the middle of fucking nowhere? So we went, and what is our reward? It's to fly on a private plane. Well, I am scared as shit to fly on a fucking private plane. I have forgotten this until this morning when I knew that I was going to shoot today's podcast, but I used to be really afraid of flying. I am so not afraid of flying now that I forgot that in my early 30s, I was afraid of flying. I legitimately just forgot that was a thing. But it was, and it was because I was in an airplane that was like hit by lightning and did have a severe fall that had like maybe a 20-foot dramatic fall in midair. All of the power to the plane was cut out, and then everything else was fine. We landed fine. Nothing else weird happened during that flight, but that was scary as fucking shit. And there was nothing I could do in that situation. It was terrifying. And so then for a few years, I was afraid of flying, and I had not flown that much again since that point. But then I did, and everything was great. And like, I am literally just no longer at all afraid of flying, because it is actually safer than driving in a car, even though it doesn't feel that way because you're not the one in control of the vehicle. Like, statistically, it is pretty safe. Even still, with all the bull ass shit going on right now, it is still pretty statistically safe. Oh my God, if I die in an airplane crash, this is going to come back, but either way, it is what it is. I didn't realize that a private airplane, what could be what's called a heavy jet. So I actually thought that all these small private airplanes would like exponentially feel turbulence worse than large airplanes. Now that is true to an extent, but I didn't understand that there were like 8, 10, 12, 14-seater planes that also were called, quote, heavy jets, to where they had like way additional stabilization. So it is not like getting it thrown around like you would if you were on like a tugboat in the ocean versus a cruise liner in the ocean. It's like, it's way differentiated. And some of them are like very literally heavy. That's why they're called heavy jets, and not like prop planes or something that's going to really experience a lot of movement. And so I was like afraid to get a little bit on the plane, but I didn't want anybody to know that. So I just got on it, and it was my first ride. I think it was like maybe a G5 or some kind of private jet. So I go on this plane ride, and it's with Chuck Schumer. And then I just found out, my brother like texted me furiously in the middle of the night, like, you're on Fox News. And I know that I have said some things about my friends over at Sticker Mule. And so I think that's why I'm on Fox News. Nay, my friend, I'm on Fox News because I'm having like dinner with Chuck Schumer at, I think it was at the White House or at Congress, I don't remember where it was, as the reward for this episode of The Apprentice. Suffice it to say, I don't like most politicians, and I most especially did not like Chuck Schumer. So I am just sitting there, and you can just see this look of disdain because I am exhausted. The only reward I wanted to be there for was when we got to like take the little kid with cancer to go buy all the toys. And so I had to fly on a plane, which I was afraid of, but I was glad I did, because then I realized I could actually fly private, which was great, because that works out well for me in the future when I knew I could just take a hopper and it was G5. I wasn't going to be scared. With this politician guy who I'm like, how the fuck are you the best that your city has to represent? Let's do all of the no. And that was 20 years ago, and that dude is still in office. So he is all of the no for me. But cool. Just you do you, period. With all of the politicians. There's a couple of new ones where I'm like, that's what we actually needed infused into politics. That being said, that was the pizza episode. And I won. I smashed it. I like smashed it, and they made it look like I just barely squeaked by. And I'm like, nah, come on. Just stop with your silly little editing. Then we went to DC. And so instead of sleeping that night, then we had to fly back. So we go into the next task, which is the Ellis Island, create like a catalog to sell at $3 or $4 each for Ellis Island for tourists today. And I have just dominated again. And so in my mind, I'm like, this is my third direct project manager win, because we won Boys and Girls Club because I took over and made sure the task got finished. We won my task because I killed it, and we won this pizza task because I killed it. So I have 3 wins as project manager, and I'm going up against people on both teams with very, 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 very little tactical experience in actually doing like a pop-up business in 24 hours, which is basically what these tasks are. Like, go create something that you can sell a quantity of in 24 hours. That's the task. And I'm smashing it so hard that I'm just like, whatever. And that was the attitude that I went into the next episode with, which may or may not have been the episode that I got fired on. Come and join us next Friday on Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire, Secrets of the Apprentice, the episode where I get fired. Yeah. You bring the wine, you grab your popcorn, and I will come with all of the tea. I will see you over here next week. Until then, hustle hard after your dreams. And if today is not the day that you're hitting it hard, then give yourself one little win that you can rack in tomorrow morning and do it first thing when you get up before you have too much time to put around whether or not you actually want to do it. If you're going to yoga, put your mat by the door, get your things together. If you're going to the gym, same thing. If you just want to get up and make sure that you treat yourself right that morning, set up your coffee in advance, whatever it is for you, score a win as soon as you can, as early as you can in the day. I hope you're living your best life, and I'll talk to you next time on the Andrea Lake 101, The Making of a Billionaire.